Greetings from the Alexandrina Council. Let's meet the driving force behind the Alexandrina community. Chief Executive Officer, Andrew MacDonald. Mayor, Keith Parks. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Peter Oliver. West Ward. Councillor Bill Coomans. Councillor Lou Nicholson. Councillor Michael Scott. North Ward. Councillor Craig Maidman. Councillor Sue Miller. Councillor Christy Thornton. South Ward. Councillor Margaret Gardner. Councillor Millie Livingston. And finally, Councillor Peter Oliver.
Good evening. Welcome to our meeting of Monday, the 20th of January 2025. An audio recording of this meeting will be made available for minute-taking purposes and will last the length of the open meeting. The audio file will be available on the Council website after the draft minutes have been circulated. I'd like to welcome our elected members. We have no apologies or leave of absence. I'd like to welcome Andrew MacDonald, our Chief Executive Officer, Stacey Patterson, General Manager Community, Alan Harvey, General Manager Infrastructure, Tash Hunt, General Manager Corporate, and some of our other staff who are here as required. Will you all please stand for acknowledgement of owners and a local government prayer. The Alexandrina Council and its communities acknowledge the Narrandjeri, Paramount and Kaurna people as the traditional custodians of the lands and waters of our council district. Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to grant Thy blessing upon the works of this council. Guide us in our deliberations for the advancement and the true welfare of the people of this district. Thank you. Just to remind council members, if you have an interest in a matter which is before the council at this meeting, you are asked to disclose the interest of the council and provide full and accurate details of the relevant interest at the beginning of the meeting, and members are reminded they must also declare that interest and provide details at the time the relevant item arises for consideration. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. For the confidential item regarding the Regional Waste Management Authority, I have a general conflict of interest due to my employment, but I will remain in the room and participate. Thank you.
Right, so item 2 is the confirmation of minutes. 2.1 is the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary council meeting of the 16th of December 2024. It's a recommendation that they be received as true and correct. Moved, Councillor Nicholson. Seconder, Councillor Oliver. Any discussion relating to those? Councillor Coomans.
I've just got a question, Mayor Parks, in relation to item 8.1, where the council actually agreed to, in relation to the pontoon at Horseshoe Bay. The motion actually reads words to the effect that the pontoon be gifted to the community by installation of other than the council. Our subsequent meeting on the 23rd had a different pathway. Is there some way that we can fix those minutes that reflects what our decision actually was on the 23rd?
What the motion was, or was there a process error?
I'm more about the process, because the minutes of the 16th are different to what we actually agreed to on the 23rd. So does it need a rescission motion or
that's correct.
Or something
so
like
we
that?
no longer need, under the local government reform, which started before this council was elected, the necessity for a rescission motion was removed. And where a motion is put to council, which is carried, which changes a previous ruling, the new motion has precedence. So there's no need to do a rescission motion. The only time now you will do a rescission motion if there has been a motion passed that you want to cancel and you don't have an alternate motion that would override it. Thank you. Any other discussion relating to that? Not, I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. unanimously. 2.2 Eastleigh Special Council minutes of the 23rd of December 2024. Recommendation that they be received as true and correct. Move Councillor Coomans. Seconded Councillor Maidment. Any discussion relating to those? No, so I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 2.3 is a Section 41 Climate Emergency Environment Committee minutes of the 2nd of December 2024. There's a recommendation that they be received and noted. Move Councillor Livingston. Seconder, Councillor Oliver. Any discussion relating to those? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. Just very briefly, I note that there's a request for a report to be prepared by administration detailing the process associated with incorporating trees within the Heritage Code Amendment. And I just had a question about that request, whether the committee was aware or not of previous questions and decisions in this chamber relating, because I understand that's about trees on private land, because there has been back on in late 2023 and then earlier this year had questions about a code amendment process and heritage, the protection of trees. So I just wanted to make sure, we don't have to discuss it now, but I just want to make sure the committee's aware that that has come across the Chamber's remit before, and there's probably been some work already done around the process. I can send the dates and yeah.
So we'll take check with Stacey. Take it on notice. Any further questions or discussion? I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 2.4 is the Section 41 Heritage Advisory Committee minutes of 12th of December 2024. There's recommendation that they be received and noted. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Maidment. Seconder. Councillor Oliver. Any discussion relating to those minutes? Councillor Miller.
Sorry, Worship. I just have a question about the Heritage Advisory Committee and their next meeting, mainly the timing of it, because we've got a big decision to make around Customs House, and I wonder if the committee would be given an opportunity to comment, to consider that at all. But I think the consultation is closing very close to the next committee meeting. I don't know if this is the appropriate place to raise it or not. I'm just wanted to make sure the committee was given an opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm going to look at the both of you, but I think the next meeting is on the 10th of March, 13th of...
It's the day before the Customs House consultation ends.
Sure. So thank you. So we will discuss that with the Heritage Advisory Committee before the council report is finalised, because we anticipate bringing that back to the March meeting. So yes, we'll absolutely bring that to the Heritage Advisory Committee for discussion.
Any further questions or discussion? If not, I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Item 3, which is adjourned debate, there is none. Item 4 is presentations and deputations. We have 2. The first one is 4.1, regarding the South Coast Growth Strategy, and Anne Bourne is here to make a deputation relating to that.
Is this on? Yeah, okay. To begin, I'd like to acknowledge we are meeting, working and living on the traditional lands of the Ngarrindjeri people, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, to their ongoing stewardship of our country and their profound knowledge and understanding of the interconnectedness of people, land and water. I live in Goolwa Beach and I have no financial interest in any aspect of housing development. I have been very involved protecting and supporting the environment and environment issues over many decades. I was directly involved with local residents advocating to Council to declare a climate emergency, which the previous Council unanimously declared in December 2019, establishing Alexandrina as being at the forefront of such declarations in regional South Australia. I was chairperson of Council's Environment Advisory Panel for 2 years, and I'm currently a member of Council's Climate Emergency and Environment Committee. Prior to my retirement last month, I worked for over 50 years in community services and health, and my commitment to community health and wellbeing continues. I hope you've all had an opportunity to read the document I emailed on Saturday, reminding you of the widespread concern about inclusion of Area Q in the South Coast Growth Strategy. These concerns were well documented in the agenda papers for Council's meeting held on the 18th of November. The focus of my deputation tonight is twofold. Firstly, to ask this chamber to reflect on how keeping Area Q on the agenda for potential housing development has already and will continue to undermine your credibility. Council's website has a number of visionary, explicit documents promoting a livable, green, connected future for our community. These include the A2040 plan, strategic plans, the draft long-term community vision and climate emergency and environment action plans. Tonight, I ask you, please be honest and respectful of your community. Don't set up consultations via My Say unless you are fully committed to taking community responses and submissions from key organisations seriously. Listen to your community and the state and local environment organisations who have raised very serious concerns about developments of Area Q, a part of which is commonly referred to as Traeger land. If you continue to consider Area Q as an option for growth, please do provide the community with your rationale and how your approach is integrated with Council's policies and community vision. I suggest you seek an independent and comprehensive environmental impact statement about any developments on Area Q, including a review of adjoining land that has been remediated and restored following extensive degradation in the past from mining operations. In the absence of a clear rationale based on independent expertise, the community can only assume that your decisions are being unduly influenced by vested interest. I suggest you also consider the potential loss of funding for environment projects or programs when your environmental credentials are potentially under scrutiny and lacking credibility. Secondly, turning to the overall growth strategy, I have first-hand experience of the absolute importance of safe, secure, affordable and appropriate housing, having worked with people affected by mental illness, homelessness, domestic violence and abuse, families on low income, single parents and aged pensioners. I strongly doubt that the kind of housing developments under consideration through this process will in any way address the needs of people who are doing it tough. I understand that the Planning Minister has committed to a long-term plan for growth across South Australia, and there is considerable pressure on all councils. However, there are many other state government ministers who must also be involved. The Deputy Premier and Minister for Climate and Environment and Water, the Minister for Infrastructure and Transport, the Minister for Health, Minister for Local Government and others. Please take the opportunity to meet with these key ministers to advocate on behalf of your community for climate resilient and environmentally responsible developments. Work in partnership with your community and community organisations. We have so much to offer. We are your greatest asset, and lack of honesty and transparency on your part will lead to a loss of credibility, which is a significant risk to Council. Please have the courage and foresight...
Excuse me, we've gone over 5 minutes now.
I think I need 20 seconds.
20 seconds, no worries.
Thank you. Please have the courage and foresight to pursue the commitments articulated in Council's draft community vision, and I quote, to pursue advocacy and partnerships to progress our community's vision, including seeking funding and good policy from state and federal governments. Thank you for the opportunity to make this deputation.
Thanks, Anne. Are there any questions of Anne? No? Thank you very much. Well
Thank
done.
you. Thank you, everyone.
4.2 is a deputation from the Strathalbyn and District Basketball Association. We have Sam Sheriff, James Murphy and Shirley Barbary to present. Welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm James Murphy and I'll be speaking to represent the views of the Strathalbyn and District Basketball Association. As the Chair mentioned, joining me is Sam Sheriff and Shirley Barbary. Also in the gallery are a number of members of our basketball community representing the keen interest the Association has in this critical piece of infrastructure. Before speaking about the significant pressures the Basketball Association is under, we wanted to put on record our opposition to the sale of any land at Lot 10 to other entities. We believe the council land is for the community and their interests are not served by the land being taken out of the community's hands. I want to commend the council for the detailed work they've undertaken for us to get to this point. The independent report is a quality, comprehensive and detailed piece of work that provides us with a solid grounding document. The concept of a new basketball stadium started in 2014. 10 years have passed and the need has only grown more significant. More than 3 years ago, we presented a concept to Council for a new 3-court basketball stadium at Lot 10, and now we have a preferred option recommended by independent consultants. For anyone who has played basketball at Strathalbyn or tried to organise a training session, it's very obvious that the Strathalbyn community desperately needs additional courts. We have outgrown our existing facilities, which at more than 30 years old have certainly seen better days. Trainings are being held off-site and outdoors. New players are being turned away, and the association is not able to attract regional competitions due to its limited facilities. With Strathalbyn's population expected to grow and surrounding towns growing rapidly, the need has never been greater. The Alexandrina Council's needs analysis for the region identifies additional court facilities in the Alexandrina Council are urgently needed. The Strathalbyn Basketball Association, which attracts players from the Fleurieu and the Adelaide Hills, currently has 400 registered players, spread across 51 teams, and we play competition every night of the week. The association has a wait list of 40 players, with 20 of them being under 10. This number does not include those who would have registered their interest, however did not due to hearing that competition was full. In today's world, how can we be saying no to 7, 8 or 9-year-olds who want to play sport? Getting children into sport at a young age is critical to their health and well-being long term. The independent TSA Riley report finds that there is significant unmet need in Strathalbyn for basketball. The expected unmet need in 2026 is 315 players, with total demand being 715. So based on those numbers, that means that approximately 1 in 2 people who want to play basketball in Strathalbyn and surrounding areas will not have the opportunity to play from next year. Importantly, and according to the independent report, basketball has the highest participation rate of the sports considered, twice the participation rate of the next closest sport. The independent report also states, and I quote, "This regional plan, which is aligned with the state strategy, clearly shows the importance of Lot 10 in supporting health and welfare outcomes for the regional community. It highlights the potential for Lot 10 to support the delivery of improved mental and physical health and well-being, connection and inclusion." The independent report finds the benefit-cost ratio of the preferred option is 1.34, highlighting the positive impact a facility like this would have on the Strathalbyn and surrounding district. The independent report makes clear that federal funding support is the preferred option, given the size of the financial commitment required. We have been engaging with Rebecca Sharkey on this matter. She is supportive of the development and has spoken publicly about her support. The Basketball Association is committed to advocating to both federal and state governments to attract funding for this critical project, as we understand Council is not in a position to fund a project of this size, and nor should it. This is a responsibility of our national and state governments. This funding is critical not just for community health and wellbeing through improved sporting facilities, but will create jobs through the construction phase, provide economic benefits for the town through the attraction of regional carnivals, provide the school with a state-of-the-art facility to cater for their growing student population, and offer ongoing employment opportunities through stadium management. The time for talk is over, the need is critical, and with the current facility bursting at the seams, the time for action is now. The Strathalbyn District Basketball Association endorses the preferred option of the independent report. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Well done. Good timing. Well done. Spot on. Are there any questions of James? Councillor Scott.
Yes, I guess just for the record, are you prepared to work in with the Strathalbyn Show Society with some sort of a shared area? I won't say joint venture, shared area, with the concept of the basketball stadium being the indoor pavilion for the show once a year on the holiday weekend?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's critical that we work with not only the Show Society but the other community groups that are part of this development. And I think one thing that the independent report called out was that the preferred option recommended was the best option to avoid community tensions, and I think we're absolutely open and committed to working with the Show Society along with the school to ensure that the Basketball Association is able to host the competitions that we need, but when that facility isn't being used, that others in the community can absolutely share that benefit, whether it's the Show Society, volleyball or the school.
And I was also envisaging parking on the showgrounds. When you're having a big carnival, parking can be on the area around the show, around the oval or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any Councillor Coomans?
Thanks, James, for your presentation. There's a motion later on that talks in the agenda that talks about the Strathalbyn Basketball Club, which I'm assuming is yourselves, and that you've got plans and previous grant applications that are dependent on land availability. So is this true, and what sort of grant applications have you got in place, and is it dependent on this land?
So the grant applications that we've got in place have been working to upgrade the current facilities, which have been awarded. We've been talking to particularly Rebecca's office about this plan, and that would need space. We don't have any active current grant applications outstanding until we're able to, I suppose, know and have confidence in where the possibility is to be placed, because there's very limited options for us. And the conversation that we had with Council almost 3 years ago was certainly around, let's get this piece of work done, let's get an independent consultant to look at it, to develop the needs analysis and a comprehensive document that we're now able to go to government with to be able to advocate for that funding. So that's exactly the path that we took that advice on, and that's the path that we're following.
Yeah, thank you. Now, both options in the T.S. O'Reilly report have similar parcels of land reserved for basketball. There's a slight change in sort of the layout. So the impact of any other user of that land would be pretty minimal. Is that area on the western side, including car parking, suitable for your use?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've followed the independent consultant in their preferred option. We're absolutely comfortable with the role that we'll play on the land in either of those options, but certainly for the reasons that I outlined at the start of my presentation, we believe the preferred option is the way to go. But in both options, you're correct, there's a space for a 3-court stadium and car parking facilities. And importantly, that built infrastructure in both of those options isn't just for basketball. There's common use facilities included in there. There's obviously the change rooms and the associated infrastructure for the outdoor facilities, as well as some offices and opportunities for local businesses.
Councillor Maidment.
Yeah, thanks, James. There's no question that council would support land availability for the Basketball Association. Is it your group's intention, because the Lot 10 steering committee is made up of many youth groups, are you preferred to stand alone and sublet or offer space to other groups, or would you like to see a recreation committee overarching, similar to other grounds around the Alexandrina region? And of course that begs the question, would you be happy with council's involvement in doing that?
Yeah, that's absolutely something we're happy to talk to. Based on the feedback that we received when we last spoke to council, us running the facility, obviously through a lease arrangement and then subcontracting out is our preferred option. The reason for that is that allows us to be able to generate income, to be able to pay for stadium management, to provide some of those economic benefits that I spoke to. But that is something that we're absolutely open to and would be happy to work with council. It was just the feedback that we got that wasn't the most efficient way forward to have a number of different groups providing input into a facility that's overwhelmingly used by one association. But we're completely open to that and what that would look like. Once we secure the funding, I think those are absolutely discussions that we'd be very happy to have. Our main focus and our North Star is to get the facility up and running. How that is run, we can look around the state at what those best options are, but certainly through the conversations that we've had, through the feedback from Basketball SA and previous conversations with councillors, it was that us running the facility and working with various community groups to lease it out was the most efficient way to be able to run that.
Any further questions? Yep. Go ahead.
Thanks, James. I'm sorry to press this one, but if the two options in that report doesn't have any real impact on you, why do you then say that you prefer the option where the Harness Racing Club is not involved at all, if it's got no impact on you? I'm just intrigued as to why.
Yeah, because the cost-benefit analysis for the preferred option was higher, and also that, in the risks identified, the preferred option was the one that was most likely to not create community tensions. So we've certainly taken the advice of the independent consultants. We appointed them, or you appointed them, to be able to come up with a recommendation. I take that recommendation seriously, and so that's why we're very supportive of the preferred option.
Councillor Thornton.
I'm curious, in terms of the planned 3 courts, do you think that's enough to have all your carnivals and everything, or would you prefer 4, 5, 6?
Yeah, when we got the plans designed up, certainly our need was around 3. That's growing rapidly, but I think changing a plan once we've gone through all of this work would be not advised. Certainly there is space there to be able to create another court if that was where we ended up. We know that the school is very keen on, for the feedback that we receive, particularly from Mount Barker and Mount Gambier, is that you build 3 and you quickly need 4. But we think this has been a comprehensive process which has involved 3 courts, and so we think sticking to that is the best bet at this stage. There is room for future growth out there, and I think that's the great advantage of Lot 10 and why we didn't go down other paths of the primary school or different areas where you really are landlocked. So certainly our focus is on the 3 courts, but happy to have 4.
Got less than a minute, Councillor Maidment.
quick one. Given that Lot 10 probably won't get traction for some years yet, have you had discussions with Catholic Education about utilising their facility when that gets built in, 2027, I think it is?
Yeah, so certainly our intent is to get moving quickly, but understand that our concern, that is absolutely something we'd look at. We currently utilise Tyndale in Strathalbyn. The challenge for an association of our size is the management of different courts at different locations all at the same time. It's difficult, obviously, for the organisation because you need to have, ticket collectors, scorers, referees, but it's also incredibly difficult for parents who have more than one child who are then playing it on different courts at different facilities. So the challenge with utilising that facility would be the transport side and the fact that it would be operating at a different location. But so we're very focused on Lot 10 at the moment, but when those options come, but certainly we used to use Tyndale more than we do now. You're at the behest of when they want to use the facility for obvious reasons, and the feedback that we got, even though it was much closer than what the new Catholic school would be, was that the commuting between the two stadiums was very difficult for families. And to directly answer the question, we haven't spoken to Catholic Ed, but we have spoken to St Francis at Mount Barker about their relationship with the Eastern Hills Basketball Association.
Thanks very much, James. We've gone a couple of seconds over, but that's good. No,
Apologies.
Good to hear from you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
All right, thanks, Chair.
So item 5 are petitions, and there are none. Item 6 is questions with notice, there are none. Item 7 is questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Nicholson, sorry. But if you can all make sure your microphones are on before you go to speak, it'd be great.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I just had a question related to the State Government Stormwater Management Fund call for Category C applicants for their capital works relating to stormwater management projects grant round. As we know, Middleton has a range of projects that we expect to need to progress, and I just wondered if the administration could let us know why at this stage we won't be putting in an application for this grant round. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Through the Mayor, the round or Category C relates to existing stormwater management plans and encourages those with those SMPs to come forward for infrastructure work that's already almost shovel ready to go. The stipulation is very clear. You must have a stormwater management plan to be able to access that particular category of funding, which is what we're aiming for.
Thank you. So just to confirm, we don't have that currently for Middleton.
Through the Chair, so as we have, we've discussed previously, we're in the process of scoping that out as per a previous report, and we'll come back to you with further information on what that looks like, given that it is, as has been advised, a very large piece of work to undertake.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've got several questions I'd like to ask. There's no information given on the MySay site about the reason for moving the Visitors Information Centre or why the South Coast Regional Art Centre is to be closed. How can community members make a reasoned decision about this matter without all the information?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the Mayor, what we decided to actually do, rather than spell out a lot of information for the community to take in dot point form, we've actually released from confidence the full council report and the minutes associated with that item that you considered, I think it was in October. So we've actually got that on the MySay page as the key document of information, and then alongside the left there's some dot points, but it's all of the information's in the council report, so we decided to leave it as that rather than spell it out in short form on the left.
May I continue, Your Worship? What made the administration erect new signage in Hayes Street, which indicates the Visitor Information Centre is down Porter Street and on the wharf before the community consultation was begun? Doesn't this indicate to our community that any consultation from them is a waste of time and be disregarded?
Thank you. Through the Mayor. I'd like to find out exactly where, though, if those signs are still up, because what actually happened was there was a miscommunication with the building of the signs, and the signs were actually designed and made pointed to Signal Point, which obviously isn't the case. We need to go, we're going to community consultation, and council need to decide whether that move is happening or not. So I believe that in the first week that those signs were up, they all got removed. So if there is some still there, we definitely need to take them away.
Your Worship, there is a large sign, a very large sign, which says "to the wharf," and underneath it, and it's pointing, there's an arrow pointing to the wharf, and underneath the top of the sign is a large visitor information eye. And so it is pretty clear that that sign is pointing the Visitor Information Centre to the wharf.
That's right. Look at it. Yeah, Stacey will get the team to look at it. But yeah, I think there was one still there today. Oh, okay. Yeah. Is there any further questions? Councillor Scott.
Just very quickly, Your Worship, my question is in relation to the build-up of roadside litter. I'm asking, is it possible for us to engage with the Department of Corrections to get the Repay SA team to come down as they did probably 8 or 10 years ago and help clean our roadsides, because they are getting worse and worse, and it's probably a bit of a, we perhaps don't have staff time to do that sort of thing, but they have done it in the past and done it quite well.
Thank you, Councillor. Through the Mayor, we certainly can have that conversation. We haven't done litter picking or collection for quite some time, but I know that Strathalbyn have, over quite a long period of time, done that on the entry points into Goolwa. But we can take that on notice and see if those actual programs still exist. Haven't been involved in them in the past. I had understood they've been ceased, but I'll check on that and come back to you.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Miller.
Just very quickly, Your Worship, I'm just interested about the Strathtown plan refresh and how that's tracking. There's budget funds for that in this current budget, so I'm just hoping we might see something about that Strathalbyn town plan refresh.
Through the Mayor, I'll just ask if our Manager for Regional Development, Matt, is able to give an update on the progress of the Strathtown plan, please.
Thank you. Through the Chair, we're currently initiating the procurement process to get that project up and running, but there hasn't been a lot of progress other than the instigation of procurement documents.
Thanks, Matt. Any further questions? No, thank you. We'll move on to item 8, which is notice of motions. 8.1 is a motion from Councillor Miller regarding Lock 10 Langhorne Creek in Strathalbyn. It's moved. Councillor Miller, do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you. I can't really add too much more to my background, and I'm very grateful that the basketball club were here tonight to speak to this. I just want to really stress it's not asking for a decision, and I just want to stress that. It's calling for information to be presented at the workshop, because it wasn't clear to me what that workshop will focus on. But this is about having everything possible scenario discussed so that we can move forward, not in a couple of months' time come back with another scenario. The workshop, I want to make sure, on the 17th of February is meaningful and covers off what the users are wanting to know. That is what the way forward may, and I stress may, look like. It's not clear what information the session's going to cover, so I just want to seek that it is active and doing, not just talking. And I really hope it's open to the public. And to my colleagues, I just stress the pressures in Strath on sport and recreation due to ageing facilities to growth, which is not slowing, and where they're non-existent needs to be really clearly understood, not just by us, but by the broader community, state and federal government and peak sporting bodies. And I see council's role facilitating and contributing as appropriate and where budget allows. I'm absolutely delighted that we're having a workshop on this as as a chamber. And Mr. Murphy talked about the value in the document, and I just want to stress the value in that document is its capacity and the leverage it gives to support the individual clubs in their own endeavours, whether they do that as a group or not. They will drive it. This will be a community-driven initiative, and we're all appreciative. They were all appreciative of the document and the information in it. And this motion is about, when we have the workshop, can we please have all the scenarios and options on the table and really address once and for all with the Harness Racing Club, because, you know, I understand their history with the town and the funds they have available, but we need to deal with this once and for all. And everybody, to my knowledge, is very open to talking to each other, and there's some really constructive conversations going on between all the user groups and the community. Everybody is focused on the community outcome, and that's what this workshop needs to support and facilitate, is helping and enabling the community to continue those conversations and know where council's position is. So it's not asking for a decision, it's not asking that you support any one or all of these things, it's making the workshop meaningful, and I hope that you will all support the workshop having some or all of these topics discussed. Thank you.
So do we have a seconder? Councillor Livingston, do you wish to speak to it? Is there any discussion? Councillor Coomans.
Thanks, Mayor Parkes. I guess I've had a fair issue with the amount of information supplied here, and to me there are lots of anomalies, so I'm going to move a formal motion, if I could. And the formal motion is that the material of this motion is noted and referred to the workshop to be held on the 10th of February. Is that the date? Yep, the 10th of February in relation to the Lot 10 Langhorne Creek Road, Strathalbyn, for further consideration.
So you seconding that?
Through the Mayor, sorry, could you just repeat what your
just
formal motion is, please?
Yes, sure. The motion is that this motion is noted, so the material that's up there is noted, and referred to the workshop to be held on the 10th of February 2025.
Sorry.
What you mean is it's adjourned. There's no such thing as deferred, so it's an adjourned item.
Yep.
So adjourned until that date.
Yep. The main thing is that this is noted, and we consider it further at that February meeting, because there's too much. Sorry, I can't speak to it. It's a formal motion. Yeah.
So Councillor Oliver seconded it. Just a sec. Do it. The formal motion, there's no discussion, so I'll put the formal motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. So we move to item 8.2, which is a motion from Councillor Miller regarding the holding of council meetings on locations other than Goolwa. There are two motions. in one, unfortunately, but we'll do one at a time. The first one is, motion one, is that moved by you, Councillor Miller? Do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, Your Worship, I do move this. But first, I do have a question about the technology that's available in the Town Hall. If someone can tell me what the technology is that will be there once it's finished.
Because the hall's a long way from finished, we can't give you, administration can't give you a full answer at this stage.
Then I'll speak to my, that's fine, speak to my motion. This is, my reasoning's in the agenda item, so I won't repeat all that. This is not just about equity and access, but it's also about inclusion. The last 2 years has reinforced for me that people don't come because they generally either don't know they can or they can't get to Goolwa. Once a year I don't think is too much to ask, and May does seem to work around harvest, vintage and seeding. Let's just reflect back on the overwhelming response we had and the goodwill it created when we had, and the exposure to council processes and decision making when we had the meeting in Strathalbyn. So this is, I've been very careful in my wording with this. Ideally, if it's finished and we can have it in History Month, I think it would be a marvellous way to showcase the Town Hall and celebrate its completion. But if that's not achievable for any reason, then on a date as soon as practicably possible. So I hope that you will please support having a council meeting in Strathalbyn in May or as early as possible in 2025. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Nicholson? Any discussion? You want to speak to it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I support this motion. If the hall isn't ready by May, as soon as practically possible afterwards would be fantastic to celebrate the opening of the Town Hall and ensure that council ordinary meetings are accessible and inclusive for all people across our vast region. I've always supported making council and will always support making council and government as accessible to people as we can. It's really important that people see these meetings as their opportunity to be involved in our decision making and to see how we discuss and come to our decisions for this council. So this has my support. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Coombs.
Thanks, Mayor Parks. I'm not in favour of this, and I said so last time when we decided to go to Strath. Staff are saying that there are no suitable PA facilities to enable everyone to hear the proceedings, and costs were about $3,000 last time. Personally, I found it a distraction with the crowded seating arrangements and people invading my space and looking over my shoulder to read my material. I'm a lot more happy in this show here. To be brutally honest, I think this is perhaps a little bit about campaigning rather than good governance by this council. The meeting we held at St Andrew's Church last year, although expertly catered for by the church volunteers, did very little to enhance the standard of the council. I also suspect that mostly the same locals and former council members will attend any future meetings there. There were also a great number of staff attending that meeting, although some said they attended voluntarily because of the novelty. Did the 60 observers who attended include the staff? I have had little problem in encouraging locals in my ward to attend council meetings when there have been items of interest to them. They have stayed for that item and then gone home. So I'd rather spend that now $3,000 or $4,000 plus cost of staff time and so forth in providing some additional playground equipment in my ward, or even reducing our bottom line. I can see benefits in meeting in another location when there are very specific items of interest for those locals, like a workshop or town meeting on something like the development of Lot 10. But for what locals would call boring to consider matters about confirming minutes or considering timelines or an activity in another area or other section 41 and 43 reports or activity reports of the resolutions reports, or approval of a street name in Goolwa, or appointments to committees. All these have some importance to us, but do very little for general community. I think it more important to roadshow budgets like we did last year in Goolwa, Strath and Mount Compass. This is the time when we are proposing real financial impacts on the respective locals, what works we are proposing, and is therefore an opportunity for them to voice their support or concern by providing feedback. We owe it to these communities to come back this year at budget time and tell them how we're going back to basics.
Councillor Gardner.
I want to speak for the motion. We have 3 wards and our North Ward is a long way away from here. It's 35 k's, and it means that our North Ward councillors are compelled to come every month, a number of times, not just once, to Goolwa. Strathalbyn was a council on its own and loved being a council on its own. And many people in Strathalbyn feel as if they have lost out. The town hall is going to be a beautiful space. I've been there. It's lovely. It's a big space, and there's absolutely no reason why we can't make the effort to get to Strathalbyn. So I certainly will be voting for this motion, and I realise it's going to mean extra work for staff. I realise that it's going to mean a bit more money, but $3,000 is not what you call going to break the bank.
Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I agree for the need for access for the community to our meetings, but I'm not sure whether this is the easiest or most appropriate way. And I would like to note the resolution that we passed at that meeting in Strathalbyn in regard to live streaming, and I note that not much appears to have happened. I think live streaming of our meetings in real time is probably the most technology current and appropriate and cheap, effective way to get our meetings live. And it's not just the meetings we can do the Section 41 committees and other things of interest as well. And that's why that resolution was framed as Alex TV. So while I do commend the intent, I think there's probably an easier and better way. Thank you.
Any further? Councillor Maidment.
Look, I'd have to agree with the Councillor Oliver and Councillor Coomans for all the reasons Councillor Coomans stated, and particularly with the opportunity for live streaming going forward. The money is not just $3,000, it's all that staff time, and I don't want to go and try and calculate that. So that money might be better set aside for this opportunity for live streaming. In my experience, the town hall won't be ready by the 19th of May 2025, and I wouldn't like to see us go back to the St Andrews Hall for the reasons indicated by Councillor Coomans. It was pretty tight. We do have people in the gallery tonight from Strathalbyn. They've made the effort, and thanks to them for coming. And we often have people from the North Ward here at other meetings. I would like to see briefings, or particularly we talk about this workshop for Lot 10. That should be in Strathalbyn, as it doesn't require a full staff attendance, and it will at least get the community of Stratha crying out for some information about Lot 10. We've had we've been sitting on our hands on this for a long time, and not much has leaked out into the community. So there's an opportunity for them to see it firsthand.
Any further discussion? So before you have your right of reply, are you going to speak, Councillor Scott?
If I may, yes.
Yes, well, can you put your hand up, please?
Yeah. I was just thinking. I think there are merits on both sides of this. I was concerned at the disruption to staff generally and all that they do and need to do, and the setup cost is my main concern. If it was something like it was Kangaroo Island was part of our patch, I would say definitely we need to be over there on a prescribed number of times. It is not very hard to drive to Strath and back. if there's something really pressing. But I wonder whether, unless in the absence of anything else planned, whether there is merit when the hall is done up and finished to have a council meeting there to really highlight the hall. And I'm sort of open-minded about that, and I need to take advice from, I guess, Strathalbyn councillors as to whether they are going to, whether there is going to be anything special. It's a lovely building, and we dropped out, you know, yes. It's a lovely building, and it will look great when it's finished. So whether there's an opportunity for a once-off, I thought that last year we were really celebrating the anniversary of Strathalbyn and St Andrew's Church, not just History Month. Perhaps I got the wrong end of the stick, but that's what I thought we were doing. This time it's the town hall, but I just wonder at the cost, which will be rising, and wondering whether, and the fact of things being live streamed so that everybody can see it everywhere, may be a better long-term project.
Any further discussion? Councillor Thornton.
Just a quick question. If it is at the town hall and we own that now, are the costings going to be that great?
Through the Mayor, the costings that are in the report, approximately $3,000, was for all the audio and visual equipment. There could be a compromise to save some of that cost by perhaps if the hall has speakers and things, but we need to hire the professional audio equipment because we don't have mobile microphones for tables like this. So last time we had the professional come in with the whole setup so there wasn't any clunkiness, and also for them to do the audio recording because we don't have the facilities for that, so that we could, I guess, post that recording online like we have been doing. But in that cost we haven't included the hire and all those bits.
Nothing further? So I'll just have my say now before you have your right of reply. So I agree with a lot of what's been said. I think we should be having, I think it's a good idea to have, and Lock 10's a perfect example, but something to do with Strathalbyn as important as that, or Port Elliot or Middleton or Mount Gumpus in one of those towns, but not council meetings. It's another expense that we don't need. We was talking about saving money. We didn't pay for surf life saving, which is a matter of saving lives at Christmas time. I know it's more money, but it all adds up. And it won't be $3,000 this year because we know what happens every time we do something. It goes up in price, and it's just wrong. There were lots of things why, when after that meeting in Strath, and Nigel was our CEO then, that Nigel was quite concerned about, and was concerned about doing it that way again. I think Councillor Oliver's discussion around live streaming is the way to go. We could live stream our council meetings, and anybody anywhere, even if they're on holidays overseas, could sit and watch them and listen to them. But if you think about it really sincerely, it's 30 minutes drive from here to Strath. It's 30 minutes drive from here to Mount Compass, and it's about 20 minutes drive from Port Elliot to here, because they've got to do 60 k's and put up with the traffic most of the way. So it's not much difference in the travelling time, and it's here. And I've never had anybody ever in my time on council ever complain about having council meetings in Goolwa. They just, if they want to come, they come. They're quite happy, and yeah, I think it's an unnecessary thing to do, and so I wouldn't support it myself. But Councillor Miller, I'll put it to you.
Thank you, Worship. I'm a little bit disappointed, I guess, and we'll see how it goes when it goes to the vote. You know, we are a big area. I thank Councillor Nicholson for everything that she said. I can only reinforce it. We are here to serve the community. I just don't want anybody to forget that. I, for the life of me, cannot understand why it took approximately 14 staff half a day to set up for St Andrews, if I understand correctly, is what happened. My motion is about celebrating the Town Hall, and if that coincides with History Month in May, that would be wonderful. If it doesn't, then I would like to see this, and I've worded it so that the council meeting can be in the Town Hall when it's ready. There may be technology in the town hall that will support this. I think probably the number one question I've been asked, apart from Lot 10, is when will the next council meeting be in Strath? Is it coming back to Strath? I think we owe it to our community. I mean, let's just keep in mind, and I wasn't going to mention this, but I'm going to now, we were ready to consider $186,000 for a pontoon. Then we were going to consider $34,000 to a pontoon. Then we were told that there's $13,000 or $10,000 lying around in a budget that would be accessible if we needed it. This is about equity and access and inclusiveness of our community. Many people who are interested in local government are older. That's just a fact. And not everyone can get to Goolwa. I think it was the goodwill that it generated for this council, having a council meeting in Strathalbyn, was, I don't think you can quantify it. This was the very first question I asked at our very first council meeting on the 28th of November 2022. And I have been asking for this since that day. Just think we owe it to our community. And I would be, you know, I think the thing is we don't live stream at the moment. So at this point in time, live streaming is not an option. So I appreciate the sentiment of that, but this is asking for a council meeting when the town hall in Strathalbyn is ready. The community has waited years to see the inside of the town hall. What better way to celebrate with an event that is the decision-making body of this council? So I put this to you and I hope that it will be supported. Thank you.
So that ends the discussion. So I'll put the motion to you. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. So we have motion number 2 from Councillor Miller. Do you wish to move it and speak to it?
I will just move it as it is. I can't say anything more than I've just said before, but I would like this to have a report around it that talks about permanently installing a council meeting in the North Ward annually, so that we don't have to have this discussion. And in the absence of any other alternative, it's just calling for a report. It's not asking for a decision. And I hope those who supported the previous motion will support this one, so that this is carried too and we can explore all the options available for accessibility of council meetings to our broader community. Thank you.
So is there a seconder? Councillor Nicholson. Is there any discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. So we now go to administration reports. We've got a little change, a little procedural change that we're going to introduce, and that Andrew will just talk to you about it, which we're hoping is going to make meetings run a lot smoother.
Thank you, Mayor Parkes. I just want to briefly introduce clarification of administration reports. So clarifying reports at a council meeting is considered good practice. It allows the report owner to provide updates to council members. That is to say, between writing the report and posting the agenda, sometimes new information is available. So it provides the report writer an opportunity to provide that information to council at this meeting. Furthermore, this procedure will allow council members to ask questions of clarity in relation to the report, and members just need to be careful that you don't start to enter debates about questions of clarity, so you understand the content of the report, any language within the report, you understand the recommendation prior to actually debating the matter. So it is considered good practice, and Mayor Parkes is going to take you through that today. We'll see how it goes. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. So, as I said, item 9 is administration reports. 9.1 is the annual business plan and budget and long-term financial plan, the 2025 timeline. Andrew, do you have any updates regarding to this report at this stage?
Nothing further.
Nothing. So nothing at this stage. So the members have any questions of clarity regarding this report? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I think this is an excellent initiative to approach these things. My question is, we've just completed consultation on our long-term financial plan and our strategic documents, and this document proposes to rebuild our long-term financial plan, which I don't have an issue with, but I'm just wondering how we're closing the loop on the consultation that we've just completed on our strategic documents and the advice we've provided to the Minister about when we will have our documents endorsed from the 2-year time frame from the last local government election.
Yep, through the Chair, a decision on the draft long-term financial plan that's been out to consultation hasn't actually been made in relation to whether it should go to Council, whether it shouldn't. Andrew Alderson and I have been doing some work in terms of just a fresh look at the long-term financial plan, and I think based on the outcomes of that, we'll come back to Council and have that conversation. And that's obviously in line with the parent strategy as well as the strategic asset management plan. So we'll come back to Council and have that conversation.
So any further questions? These are questions, but remember, these are questions for clarity. They are not questions that you would normally answer during the debate. Councillor Miller.
So my question is about the advice we've given the Minister that we will have our strategic documents endorsed by March 2025. I just wonder how that fits with this.
Through the Chair, Council currently has an endorsed and adopted long-term financial plan. So that is in place in terms of the parent strategy and the strategic asset management plan. That is the matter that Council will need to consider, and that's in line with Council completing a comprehensive review of its strategic management plans within 2 years of the term of the new Council.
Any other questions? If there are no other questions, we'll look for a mover to the motion. Move, Councillor Oliver. And you wish to speak to it?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to just very briefly thank the CEO for his efforts so promptly in his tenure, and I welcome the new timeline and process. It's a very detailed process. It's very robust while being flexible. Importantly, it provides the elected members with lots of opportunities for involvement and consultation and input, which I really welcome. And I think it's great that we're effectively starting from scratch with the long-term financial plan. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Livingston. Is there any discussion? If not, I will put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. So we go to 9.2, which is the Heritage Strategy Annual Report. Responsible Officer is Stacey. Stacey, do you have anything to add to this report?
No, thank you, Mayor.
So are there any questions of clarity relating to the report? Councillor Livingston.
Thank you, Mayor Parkes, and I'm happy for you to direct me if these are more substantive questions and I shouldn't be asking them now. In the report, I just want to ask a question in relation to the thematic history documents. Where are these located and who has access to them?
Thank you. Through the Mayor, we anticipate that these will be presented to council members by the end of the calendar year. We're just in the process of finalising those with our internal team at the moment, our strategic planning and heritage team. And we do need to have a heritage architect sign off on all that information and the data sheets that are involved as a requirement. And so we're just going through the procurement process for that at the moment. But yeah, we anticipate by the end of the year you'll see it.
Sorry. Then I've got, in relation to the finalisation of the data sheets, there was a comment in the report that there's been no resource allocation this last year, but I'm just wondering where that funding is and coming from the consultant, for the consultant.
Through the Mayor, so with the data sheets, that is to do with the code amendment itself. So that is actually part of our normal operating budget, that we do need the heritage architect to sign off on that part of the process. So that's part of the normal annual operating budget.
And last question for clarity, sorry. In relation to the data sheet for Goolwa, when is that being prepared?
That'll be part of the information that'll come at the end of the calendar year. That's when we're anticipating we'll bring it to you.
Are there any other questions? If not, we'll ask for a mover. Councillor Gardner, do you wish to move?
Yes, Your Worship. The heritage building audit undertaken by Hoskin Willis Heritage Architecture was produced in 2023. Is that right? Because I don't remember seeing this report before, and just wonder why it is that it's taken so long to get to us.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. So the team have advised me on that one that we actually started building that one in 21-22 financial year when there was funds available for whatever reason before my time. And then once that bulk of the work was done, it was actually finalised in-house recently, but because we did it in-house within existing budgets, it's actually only just been finalised. And the reason why you're seeing it now is because the team felt there was no sort of context to it, and now that we've aligned it to the long-term financial plan and the strategic asset management plan, it makes more sense to present it to members now.
Can you clarify me first whether you're asking questions or whether you've moved it? Because I got past the questions and I went for a mover and then you stuck your hand up.
Oh, I'd like to ask another question just to follow up.
So are we asking questions still for clarity?
And
I just need to know.
Sorry.
I just need to know whether we're asking questions for clarity or whether you're moving it.
No, just a question, Your Worship. My concern is, having seen the report, we were led to believe that many of our heritage buildings were in a parlour state.
So that's not a question. You're making a statement.
I'm coming to the question.
Well, the questions have got to be concise. Just
I'm sorry, Your Worship. No, look, I'll withdraw.
Any questions? Councillor Livingston.
Sorry. No, I thought you were moving.
Now that we've got, if we do it a bit at a time so we don't go forward and backwards like a yo-yo. So we've got no more questions. Right, so we have a mover, Councillor Livingston. And you wish to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. And I would like to move points 1 and 2 with a slight change to point 2 and an additional 3, which I sent through to Tash. Sorry. And I'm happy to say it out loud while Tash gets that up. Sorry for being a pain. My point 3 is to say that as part of the workshop, which is referred to in point 2, that the following information be provided. A, Council's property portfolio. B, places and objects in Alexandrina Council identified as having heritage significance, including having a formal local or state heritage listing. And C, details of any state or federal funding available, including any future grants for heritage or community purposes, and details of all funding of this type received by Alexandrina Council in the past. I've got blank years as I was going to seek guidance from administration on the appropriate time frame if there's grant funding cycles, and I'm happy to speak to that. Yeah, that's the direction that I was hoping I could seek from administration as to what the appropriate timeline would be.
Through the Mayor, if I may seek clarity, you're asking how many years you want us to go back through to find grant funding?
Yeah, I just don't want it to be a significant body of work for council, that's all. So what would be fairly easy to, what do we have access to readily easy in terms of finances as to what we've received?
Is 5 years reasonable?
Happy with that?
If you're, no?
That's okay.
Can I speak to it now? Yep. So firstly, the Heritage Strategy and Annual Report shows a large body of work undertaken in respect of heritage in Alexandrina. However, I see that this is much more than just noting. Heritage is very important and we should be prioritising its preservation. Goal number 2 out of 4 in the strategy is that we value and protect our heritage, and I think we can do much more in this space. I would like to know and understand why some buildings have formal local or state listing and those that don't. In my view, whilst it's important to have a documented strategy, it's also important that we as elected members and administration review and consider as a whole what property we do own and what places and objects we have in Alexandrina Council of heritage significance. It tells the story of our region's past. Our budget is very limited, however, we still need to have the blue sky workshops to discuss what is possible in this space and what funding is available to achieve council goals. I found the heritage building audit very informative and provided new or different information as to the current condition of places, as well as very interesting history about different structures in our area. I reiterate just how important it is to have full details about assets and understand heritage significance of them, and I ask for the Chamber's support for this workshop. Thank you.
So do we have a seconder? Councillor Gardner? Any discussion? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Worship. I'm happy to support this extra wording on the understanding it's not a huge amount of work. I just wanted to actually note that and congratulate Council for the commendation that they were awarded for this body of work. I think Alexandrina is a leader in heritage preservation and a strategy. I'm not sure there are too many councils that have a heritage strategy. And I want to congratulate everybody involved in that. And as the report says, this is an important guiding document for our council and its community. And this was where, if I hadn't asked it before, I was going to ask about the committee having some input into the Customs House decision. And I also just wanted to clarify the Heritage Awards, similar to the Australia Day Awards, they go through the Chamber for endorsement. I'm not sure the Heritage Awards do that same thing, but I think it would be very important for Council to be the decision maker about those Heritage Awards, to lift the prominence of those awards and make sure they come through the Chamber for decision, because they are a Council award. But I loved everything about this report, and thank administration for providing it. Looking forward to seeing it annually. Thank you.
Sorry, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? In favour? Against? Start again. In favour? Against? It's carried. So 8.3 is the Ashbourne free green waste disposal during the fire season. The responsible officer is Alan. Alan, do you have anything to add to this report?
No, nothing further, Mayor.
So, are there any questions for clarity? Councillor Miller.
Actually, no, I'll wait. I want to foreshadow something, so I'll wait.
Questions? So we'll ask for a mover. Is there a mover? Councillor Gardner. Do we have a seconder? So, Councillor Livingston, second it. So is there any discussion? Councillor Livingston.
I have some questions which weren't for clarity. Do we know if Frawa did a half-price green organic disposal day in 2024 before the bushfire season?
Through the Mayor, I would need to take that one on notice because that may have been before my time here, but I don't remember seeing it in any budget that was put forward because we'd have to supplement that.
Okay, because I saw that there was one in 2023. Sorry, the rest are in the debate.
So is there any further discussion? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I'm supporting that we don't proceed with this, but I want to make an amendment, if I can, please, that Council include in the 25-26 financial year annual business plan and budget consultation, the introduction of a new free green garden waste voucher system for the residents of Ashbourne. So I'm happy that we don't proceed as printed because of where we are in the budget cycle. Yeah.
So you're moving an amendment. That's right.
And if I may speak to why, Your Worship, I'm moving this amendment because of where we are in the budget cycle. So I don't think we can introduce any more operating expenses to our current financial year, especially without consulting the broader community. So point 2 actually does that during the annual business plan and budget process for 2025-26, in that this is a change in service level and we would need to ask the community. So this is not saying that we will introduce this, it's saying that we won't this year, but we will ask the community more broadly how they feel about this, introduce this for Ashbourne. So there's no budget impact, and it's asking to consult the community on if there's merit to it or not. Thank you.
So do we have a seconder? Councillor Livingston, you're seconding it? Any discussion, Councillor Coomans?
Oh, you said Councillor Livingston, that's all.
Councillor Livingston seconded it?
Yep.
And Councillor Coomans, you put your hand up to speak to it.
I just have a question.
Oh, sorry, you already, yep, sorry. Apologise. So is there a seconder? Councillor Maidman. Any discussion? Councillor Coomans.
Ask a question, please. The consultation, is that only of residents in Ashbourne, or is it consultation council-wide?
My amendment is just for Ashbourne because we're just talking about Ashbourne in this item, so I'm sticking to the topic.
Okay, well, if I can speak now, I guess I don't support the amendment because it would be obvious to me that if you asked all the people in Ashbourne whether they'd like to have a green waste collection, it would probably be 99% saying yes. So it really doesn't add any value whatsoever. So I won't support the amendment, but will support the original motion.
Any further Councillor Maidman. Yep.
For this motion, constraints, we obviously can't afford it this year. There are 64 houses in Ashbourne affected by this particular motion. They don't have vast properties to dispose of green waste. Ashbourne's got the highest percentage of tree canopy in the whole of this Alexandrina area. They've also two Ash Wednesday bushfires go through that area as well, and it is a very, very dangerous place to live with all the undergrowth and the tree canopy there. And they're in that valley, and if they can keep the fire risk down through the summer months, then this goes a long way to helping those people on the smaller blocks that absolutely need it. This was raised quite some years ago before this chamber, and it was something that came out of a village conversation that Ashbourne residents were looking for. Yes, they'll all tell you they want it, but they've already told us that in the past.
So is any further discussion? You'll close the debate, if you do. Councillor Nicholson, yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have another question just to follow on from Councillor Cooman's question about the consultation. The consultation would be, sorry, I'm seeking clarification. Let me know if this is correct. That the consultation would be Alexandrina-wide based on Ashbourne-specific collections, or the consultation would be Ashbourne-specific for Ashbourne collections?
Through the Chair, if Council's consulting on the 25-26 annual business plan and budget, it should be community-wide, not just Ashbourne.
Any further discussion? So you should have your right of reply.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to be really clear here that this is community-wide consultation during the annual business plan to introduce a voucher system for the residents of Ashbourne. That's just what we're not just only asking Ashbourne. It's proposing to introduce a new service level that needs to be consulted with the entire community, but the service is specific to Ashbourne. So everybody across the district has the opportunity to comment on whether we do this for Ashbourne. And I can't add any more than that, just to be really, really clear. Thank you.
So that ends the discussion, so I'll put the motion to you. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. So the amendment now becomes the motion. So I'll put the motion to you. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. So 9.4 is a review of speed limits within Strathalbyn Town Centre. And it's the community engagement results, and Alan, that was one of your reports. Do you have anything to add to that report?
Nothing to add.
So are there any questions of clarity regarding the report? If not, do we have a mover for that one? Councillor Gardner. Speaking? No, Seconder. Councillor Oliver. Any discussion? Councillor Livingston.
I just have a question. Have we looked at a 40 kilometre per hour for the main streets in other towns in the council district before?
Through the Mayor, I don't believe we have. This was the first one that was instigated by council through direction. We have not undertaken any further action in the township as we've not received, or we don't have that direction to do so.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Scott.
A couple of things. I'm a little sorry that this is not going to be progressed, because I'm a great believer in the 40k speed limit in the inner areas and not on the arterials, of course. But it appears that by default we're achieving the outcome we want anyway, because the average speed I think is 38 or something, it was suggested. But I also like to add that this matter is being discussed and considered by the Port Elliot Town and Foreshore Group for some of the streets in Port Elliot as well. So it's going to bob up again, I think. But there is a lot of merit in having a 40k speed limit on the side roads, and I guess where there's particularly new areas where there's greater housing density and that sort of thing, it has statistically it is a real protection for particularly for children, and I've been involved in that in real life. At 40 k's you can really pull up in most cases satisfactorily, but if there's no merit in doing it, well, I guess we don't do it.
Further, Councillor Maidman.
Yeah, this is a disappointing result, and if we asked 300 senior citizens of Strathalbyn if they'd like to see this reduced, they'd all say yes. That would negate the 300 people that said, no, we don't need a drop in the speed limit. Social media got hold of this and smashed this, and the comments on social media where it's going to take 20 minutes to go from one side of the town to the other. I live in that area that has got narrow streets, and when people park on the road, you have to wait. On one side of the road, you have to wait to get around if there's a oncoming car. The 40k limit, we can have trucks, B-doubles going through there, as they do in Middleton, at 50 kilometres an hour. The idea of the 40k limit was to make people aware of their responsibilities, and if they did create an accident and were over that limit, then that would obviously negate their insurance, and they'd be thinking twice about doing that higher speed through town. I've lived there for 45 years. I've seen people doing well over 50 kilometres an hour down the main street, and that was my concern with the number of people on gophers, walking frames, people on crutches and sticks, because they need to be able to get across the road at certain times, and those trucks going past the schools, that was a big concern. And I get it that the Department of Transport want the trucks to move through much more quickly, but to go past those schools at up to 50 kilometres an hour is not helping the situation. There's 3 schools that they have to go past, so that was the intent. I asked for a report. I've got a report. I accept that don't always get a win on these situations, so I'll have to leave it for now and hope that no one gets cleaned up in the meantime.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you. I'd just like to reiterate what has been said in that, this is quite a disappointing outcome. I was surprised at this. West Ward councillors have recently received correspondence from Port Elliot Town and Foreshore Improvement Association indicating that they would also be very keen to see a project like this initiated for parts of Port Elliot, and I know that some members of the Goolwa Primary School community are very interested to see a 40-kilometre zone surrounding the Goolwa Primary School and township as well. I struggle to understand how, if the data is showing drivers are already doing about 40 kilometres an hour on average in these roads, it really to me indicates that if we're driving to the conditions, that is the maximum or the reasonable speed that you need to go on these streets. And it also shows that some drivers are going over that, which I certainly can appreciate would be very alarming and feel quite unsafe. So unfortunately, the report shows that we can't really take this to the Minister without being able to demonstrate community support. So I will accept the recommendation of Council at this time, but I think it's important to reflect on these results for Council, knowing that other sections of our community, and maybe down the track revisiting for Strathalbyn would be a reasonable move as well. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I have a little bit of a dilemma with this. I thought that we'd changed our process to receive and note community engagement results in one decision and then make a decision on that feedback in another, because I want to vote for this because I want to receive and note the report, because but I can't support not proceeding with it. So, but the community results suggest we can't proceed with it. So, first of all, I want to thank the 331 who responded. But I agree with Councillor Bateman. I think this was taken over by social media. And when you think about the people who responded, I think we need to look at how we engage, because the people who probably are interested in this and who wanted this are that demographic that is potentially not on social media and doesn't get the opportunity to engage with us on topics like this. And a sure way to get people's attention and interested in local government is to either try and sell land or change something about speed limits. So I think we can receive this feedback, accept it is what it is, and I can only say I look forward to the legislated community engagement charter that's coming, that will dictate that will actually spell out how we must engage with our community on matters. So I am in a conundrum. I'm voting for it because I want to receive and note it, but I'm disappointed that it's one motion all tied together, and I'll just have to wait and see how I feel when it comes time to voting. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councillor Gardner, do you wish to speak to it at all? No. So I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. (9.5) is the Murray-Darling Association Region 6 nominations for the Executive Committee representation. This is a report from Andrew. Andrew, is there anything to add to that?
Yeah, nothing further.
Nothing further. So are there any questions for clarity? No, so I'll seek a mover. Councillor Scott. Second to Councillor Oliver. Is there any discussion relating to that? No, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 9.6 is the Chief Executive Officer's report. Now this is was when Tash was relieving as CEO. So Tash, is there anything to add to your report?
Nothing, sir.
Nothing. Any questions for clarity on that report, Councillor Nicholson?
May I ask for more information on the meeting with Country Arts SA's CEO and staff?
No, that's part of the discussion when we get to the meeting. It's not clarity, that's asking about the content, so you've got to get it right. Any questions for clarity? If not, now I'll ask for a mover. Move Councillor Livingston. Seconder, Councillor Nicholson. And you had a question? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm just very curious about the meeting with Country Arts SA's CEO and staff, and if the Chamber can be updated on the topic of that meeting.
Through the Chair, I might actually get our General Manager of Community, because she's had some more detailed conversations and knows what she's allowed to share.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, it was a really exciting meeting. Noting that we can't sort of share too much, but the team did explain that they've got some plans about some First Nations themed exhibitions and all sorts of plans that they would like to propose of different theatre shows or in different locations around our region. So it was really exciting that they were sharing some of those initial concepts with us. And they were also asking, that once they've got more information, would they be able to meet with our team that does arts and culture to potentially ask for support and how that could happen. So we took them through the processes that community members and organisations need to seek support. And they were also very interested to go down to Signal Point and view the Yuntal and Kuliwa exhibition. So I took them on a tour down there of our art gallery exhibition there and the Yuntal and Kuliwa exhibition. So they understand a little bit more about what we've got on show, which we're really proud of as well.
Any other questions? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I just was looking at the resolutions register and we had some clarity around the content of that, but I just wondered about the community survey that Councillor Oliver brought forward. the wooden boats review and the service reviews and the service level and cost structure benchmarking that was being scoped. And I'm keen to just understand that they're all still progressing and we'll be getting some information at some point about those service reviews.
Thank you, through the chair. Administration are working on a report to come back to council on those things. Having our new CEO commence as well, we need to give him some time to get his head around it and talk about our approach to those. So we intend on bringing them very soon. But also working with our strategic plan review at the same time.
Is there any further discussion or questions of Andrew's report or Tasha's report? No, so I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? Anybody against? That's carried unanimously. It's a bit hard to tell. Item 10 is committee reports. 10.1 is a report from the Heritage Advisory Committee regarding road naming. This is a report from Stacey. Do you have anything to add to the report?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Thanks. Are there any questions for clarity of this report? If not, then we'll ask for a mover. Move, Councillor Maidment. Seconded, Councillor Gardner. Any discussion? No, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. (10.2) is the Climate Emergency and Environment Committee. It's the resignation of the committee chair, Dr. Ken Fisher. This is a report from Stacey. Do you have anything addition to add to this?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Are there any questions of clarity? Councillor Gardner.
Is it possible to understand why Ken decided to retire from the position? Are we able to know that?
Thank you. I'll just ask our Regional Development Manager to answer a bit more about that one.
Thank you, through the chair. The main reason it was given verbally was just due to competing interests and not having the time to be able to put towards the committee that he would like.
Is there any further questions? If not, we'll ask for a mover. Move, Councillor Livingston. We speak to it?
Yes, thank you. I agree with the recommendation reluctantly, and I just wanted to note as well how much of a great asset Ken has been to SEEK, and to thank him for everything that he's contributed to that committee, and I am hopeful that he considers returning as a general committee member.
And do we have a seconder? Councillor Oliver. Any further discussion? Councillor Coomans.
Yes, a bit sad, I think, because Dr. Fisher was a real, as chair of that committee, he was very knowledgeable and he led that committee very well. It's a bit of a sad loss. I'm just wondering, there's nothing in here about sort of actually thanking him for his participation in that committee. That be appropriate for council to actually thank him for that. We're recognising his valuable contribution and dedication, but maybe he should have that in writing. Okay, thank you.
Stacey said yes, we can do that. Says it, Councillor Miller, did you wish to speak to it?
I just had Councillor Livingston's comment about, so I understand he's resigning from the chairperson role, so that means he's resigning from the committee in totality because he was appointed as the chairperson, so he's lost to the committee, is what I understand that means?
I believe so, through the chair, unless Matt has any further information. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. That's correct. However, there's also a vacancy on that committee at the moment that he may then seek to apply for.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 10.3 is a report from the Climate Emergency and Environment Committee. regarding sustainable waste management practices. This is a report from Strathalbyn.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Any questions for clarity?
Yes, the question regarding events and markets which align with Council's environmental sustainability goals. Some events are held on the foreshore or in the park or whatever, and there's some council red bins. You're not expecting the organisers to rifle through those bins, are you? Or is council looking at providing different types of coloured bins for different types of waste?
Through the Chair. So there's a draft policy or a refresh of the existing waste management policy, was the new one, public waste management, which deals with bins particularly. And in there is a section that talks to this, because the opportunity became available to insert what SEEK were trying to achieve into that for consultation. That talks to having event organisers tell council how they're going to manage their waste. So it means we need to see that, but it leaves it up to them some level of flexibility about how they do it. So it's a scalable and flexible arrangement, but they still need to detail that in their event management plans, but only on land that is public land. If it's being held in a private property, that's a different story altogether.
Hang on, you got your microphone off. And are these for clarity or part of the discussion on the clarity?
So my question was about the red council-owned bins. I might conduct an event in the park and bring my own bins in and sort that out, and I've got a waste management disposal policy there. What about the council red bins? You don't expect the event organiser to rifle through that and sort it all out?
Through the Mayor, as per my first answer, any event that if the draft public waste management policy goes through with that in it, and you will see that and provide comment on that before it goes to public consultation, the event organiser will come to us and tell us what they want to do. And we'll try and help and support them in the best way we can for them to achieve the best level of separation or waste management they can achieve for that event. To be very specific, the red lidded bins that you see at those events are hired from Frower. They're not council bins drawn from the streets. Those are those mauve or other coloured bins that you see around. So they've hired those, and then Frower come and pick them up and dispose of them. So to be very specific, no. I don't think anyone wants to wade through a general waste bin, but the idea is that the options become broader and we try and support better outcomes from those events.
So are there any other questions for clarity? We are talking clarity. Councillor Miller?
Who's doing the investigating? Is it Frower or council administration?
Through the Mayor, could I clarify from you what investigation you're referring to?
Yes, the motion reads that council supports investigating measures that will encourage more sustainable waste. So it's council administration doing the investigation, or it's Frower doing it for us?
Through the Mayor, council is lead in terms of waste management. Frower is a subsidiary of council that provides collection and in part disposal of waste. So in the first instance, it would be council that would carry out that investigation and has already gone so far as to provide some support within a new draft policy.
Just one more. The policy is draft still. We haven't seen that policy body of work, as I understand it.
Through the Mayor, that is absolutely correct. So that'll be with you fairly soon for initial comments prior to it then going out for public consultation.
Any other questions for clarity? If not, seek a mover. Moved by Councillor Livingston. Seconded by Councillor Gardner. Is there any discussion?
May I speak?
Oh, Councillor Livingston is going to speak.
Thank you. Yeah. I just wanted to state how much I support this motion and what the intent behind it was as well in the discussion that we had at the committee. We spoke about how much of a good job that Chitterslow does at the wharf markets in respect of diversion of waste, and we really wanted to see how we could look at that from a council-wide thing with events. And the first one that I thought of in that respect was, for example, the Wooden Boat Festival down at the wharf, and how we can actually go through pilot programs for that, which was really good timing with the draft policy as well. So it was all about minimising general waste and what we can do in respect of public events as well.
Councillor Gardner.
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to say also that Chitterslow has been doing this for events for years, and there are always, and it's horrifying to see what people are prepared to do. They just don't think about where their rubbish goes. When Chitterslow holds their events, they have 2 people standing at the bins all night long until the event is finished, and they are directing people where to put their rubbish, because people simply either don't know or don't care. I'm not really sure about that, but they actually, as I say, have been doing it for years, and it's been very successful. And I think actually the general public has begun to think more carefully about where they throw things as a result of Chitterslow members actually spending some time talking with them. So I would really encourage this. It's very important.
Do we have any further discussion? Councillor Scott.
Yes, in theory it is extremely important. However, in practice, the problem is, however well-meaning, well-intentioned you are, except with Chitterslow, who has a series of people standing by the bin, which is very hard to get people to do that all the time, is the contamination rate. And it's the contamination rate that kills the whole problem. I was very interested to see that, and I will follow it up myself with the Royal Show, but Royal Shows, I'd say across Australia, but certainly in Sydney and Melbourne, I've been to just recently, have got a very concentrated bin option situation for people, and I'd like to find out how they get on with the contamination there, and whether it is really working, or whether it's I wouldn't say tokenism, or whether it's a great idea but they're still getting high levels of contamination. But we just need to be careful that, however well-meaning it might be, that we don't put the organiser of some of these events through a whole lot of trauma to still find at the end of the day that there's contamination. And that's the problem. It's all about contamination with waste management, and how we stop that, apart from having people standing at the bin and knowing what running organisations is like, running events, and how hard it is to get volunteers, to get people to stand by every bin and advise the general public, who may not necessarily care and may be quite abusive into the bargain. It could be very, very hard. I'm just picturing trying to do it at something big like the Port Elliot Show or Wooden Boat Festival. It may be quite a challenge to get that to really, really work. Dropping out here. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that's all.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to add that in the report, under risk implications, it's stated that the risk of adopting this recommendation is considered low. I think additionally we need to consider that the risk of not adopting this recommendation has implications for reputationally. At City of Victor Harbour, they have recycling bins in public places. They've got them at Warland Reserve and down Ocean Street. You know, if visitors or our residents, you know, cross that boundary that's not very far away at all, they can see a big difference. Reputationally, we understand the complications of the cost of, you know, putting those bins in and you know, how close we'll actually get to achieving diversion because of contamination. We understand that, but we must keep pushing ahead with initiatives. We must, if it won't work that way, we have to try another way, and we have to keep looking at ways that we can meet our community's expectations in waste management. So I just think it's important to consider that risk. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councillor Livingston, did you wish to write a reply? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. So we go to 11, which is council member reports. 11.1 is my report for December. This report was done by Andrew. Andrew, do you have anything to add to my report? No. Are there any questions of clarity relating to my report? No. So I've got one couple of things to add, but to seek a mover first that we accept the report. Councillor Livingston. Seconder, Councillor Scott. Is there any questions or discussion relating to my report? The thing that I would like to add is that to advise you that at 8 o'clock last night, past Councillor Jim Davis passed away. Jim was a member of this council for 20 years. He was a very, very passionate and strong contributor to Rotary in Goolwa and also in Adelaide before he moved here. I think one thing not many people knew about Jim, which is something really significant, he was a founding member of the committee that started the craniofacial unit. So that just was an outstanding achievement. The craniofacial unit will never have got off the ground without Jim and that committee, and he was always very proud of that. And so he's a character. He was a controversial councillor. But he certainly had his beliefs and his opinions, and he stood by them. And so it's a great loss to our community, and just wish Jim's daughter and all the best for the future in coping with this. So with that, I'll just ask that I'll ask for that we accept the report. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. So item 12 is confidential items.
South Coast Television, your community, your voice.